I just don't get it. I wouldn't.
Call to order. December 12th, Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone. First thing on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Have anything motion to do that? Make this motion. Motion, we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, by like sign, motion carried. Also need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Opposed, by like sign, motion carries. So do we have anyone signed up for public comment? So, no one signed up for public comment, but I would like to take a moment to recognize Lake Sylva for being here with us. If you'd like to say anything, you feel welcome to.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Wasn't really expecting to say a whole lot, just say hey to you all. I'm from Congressman Chuck Edwards' office. I'm his Western Field Representative. I cover Haywood County and everything west of Haywood County. Been in constant contact with Manager Dowling and Mayor Phillips and many of you throughout the storm and before the storm, various projects I know you guys are working on in no particular order, 107 and the wall that you've got going on here behind town hall. More than happy to continue and want to continue constant communication between our office and all of you. You can all have my cell phone number, call me anytime. Just wanted to stop in, let you know that I'm always around. You can call me anytime. I also wanted to say that our office has been doing constant casework, not just for the storm, FEMA cases. Folks, some of your citizens who may have been affected can call our office. We're more than happy to, Congressman's more than happy to use his office any way he can to help citizens in Sylva. And then also we do veterans casework, Social Security casework, any issue that any of your citizens may have with the federal government. Our door is always open. Sometimes it's in a van because we have our Carolina Cruiser mobile office unit that comes by. So, but our door is always open. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service. Moving on to reports. Mayor's report, I don't have anything for the report today. So I'll move on to Miss Mary.
I want to mention two things tonight. One, I have to leave at 6:40. If we're not done with the meeting, just know I'm going to slip out that door and watch a band concert with my son.
Okay.
Second thing is, I just was making an observation that the planning board, I think, has not met since October of 2020. And at least that's how I perceive it from the Town of Sylva site. And if that's true, I'm a little bit concerned as to why. So I'm wondering if that might be able to be on a January agenda, maybe?
I'd like to address it after the end of the commissioner reports.
Okay, great. And then one last comment to that. Maybe monthly meetings are expecting too much. And I noticed that we had a bi-monthly schedule on item number 8 for the new Economic Development Board. And maybe that's something we want to consider for the. That's all I got.
Okay. Brett?
I have nothing to report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Well, just a couple of things real quick. I want to say thank you to the town of Sylva itself. We had a wonderful Christmas dinner today. That was great. A lot of people was here. I just want to say thank you. I'm sure everybody here felt the same way. The other thing I want to mention, and I know I keep harping on this, but I just think it's special here at Christmas because this is our last meeting for the year. Dr. Cliffall and his staff are doing such a tremendous job. And I think he needs all the recognition that anybody and everybody can give him. Even the people that help him with the parts, the donations and cars and the trucks and the vans. He's really doing a good thing, and I think that shows that there is good-hearted people in this town that wants to progress and wants to help people, even in this county. So if you ever see Dr. Fallout, please just tell him thank you, because he's doing a very good thing. That's all I got.
Good. I had nothing to report. John?
Yeah, good evening. I was just gonna mention, went on a ride along with the Public Works Department on Wednesday, the 27th. And with Jake, I got to see kind of how they do things in the mornings, and it was very informative. And I wanted to just say thank you to our Public Works guys. He showed me a lot about trash pickup, everything from that to seasonal decorations to lighting to keeping our streets clean and water working and all kinds of things. So it was informative. There were some things that came up I thought maybe we could discuss as a board at some point. Don't need to get into that now, but we appreciate it. Just want him to know we appreciate what they do day in and day out with all the things they do in the town. And we've had some special events lately. They've done a great job with Ray, with Tree Street and some other things like that. So just want to say kudos to that team, Jake, and all his work there.
And just to close out that, I will add to what John's saying with, my appreciation for the entire town staff. Our office staff, our public works, our police department, our fire department, everybody goes all out to do their job, and do it well. So thank you very much to all of you. Good year. Next is our manager's report.
Yes. So first, I'll start with Mary's question about the planning board. That's correct. What's happened here is the ordinance overhaul that we did from 2020 to 2022 resulted in a new zoning ordinance and land use plans that fixed a lot of the issues that typically would have come before the planning board as amendments. That's one thing. The second thing is the lack of development along 107 has eliminated a lot of the applications that would have come before the board, either through rezonings or text amendments. And then the other thing is it's the off-cycle year for federal housing tax credits. So those projects aren't coming before the board. But we still need to keep a monthly planning board meeting on the schedule because eventually things will start coming up. But development will begin to happen again and we'll get more applications. And when those come in, we'll need to have a time frame scheduled that we can help those along in a timely manner. But if we don't have topics to discuss, I don't feel like we need to have a meeting to meet. It's really how development in the town is happening right now.
Thank you for answering that.
You're welcome. FEMA update. So all town administrative staff and Jake met with FEMA representatives on December the 22nd and had what's called the recovery scoping meeting to discuss the town's damage inventory for Hurricane Helene. We're submitting the funding request for a replacement of the retaining wall from the Allen Street Bridge to the Twassa sewer pipe behind our office. So we're hopeful that that will be a full replacement, but it's possible we're told that it could be a repair based off of a percentage of damages. We'll be subject to an environmental review along with a historic review. I want to make you aware that there's a chance that Public Works will need to relocate during the repair, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I've submitted our estimated damage inventory to FEMA, and I'm working on additional documentation in the grants portal so that they have everything to review our application. Unfortunately, the leaf vacuum is broken. Parts have been ordered, but it'll likely be next week before it can be operational again. So we have a notice on the website. It's also on Facebook. And once they're able to pick up leads, Public Works has promised to prioritize them as soon as they get it back up and running. Bartlett Operations has been working to reframe the restroom and the pavilion at Bryson Park. Due to the location of the sewer line, we're not going to be able to extend the shelter. We can still add picnic tables with umbrellas that will help us achieve the additional seating that we were hoping to add there. The pavilion renovation is expected to be completed by early March, or I'm sorry, by the end of March. With the restrooms, the second punch list walkthrough was on Tuesday, and they're considered what's called substantially complete. We're hopeful that they'll be open to the public on Monday, and we're planning a ribbon cutting at Greening Up the Mountains. Duke Energy is still installing the new street lights on Main Street. The contractor anticipates working another week on Main Street before moving on to Mill Street. And replacements of the lights at the intersection will need to be coordinated between the DOT and Duke. So that's why we're not seeing those that have the traffic signals yet. Regarding 107, and I spoke with the project manager from DOT last week. Tree clearing should start happening soon, and the tree clearing will occur prior to April the 15th before Duke starts moving their poles. 90% plans are still being reviewed. DOT hopes to let the project on schedule with the caveat that utilities will still be in the process of being relocated. Once construction begins, the project is estimated to take 4 to 5 years to complete. I'll let you know as I receive updates on this and on the timeline of the streetlights. To recap the parade, thank you to everyone that works or participated in the parade. It was a great event. We had as many entries this year as we typically have. I believe the crowd was smaller because of the holiday weekend and because of cold weather, but we heard lots of positive feedback from participants. So as always, we identified a few minor changes that we can make to make the parade process smoother next year, particularly at the end of the parade. I'll be out of the office tomorrow afternoon for the Western North Carolina Managers Association meeting in Asheville. And a reminder that town offices will be closed December 24th to 26th. Trash collection during the holidays. The Monday trash route will operate normally, but the Wednesday trash route will be picked up on Friday, December the 27th, and then again on Thursday, January the 2nd. You all have any questions?
The Bryson Park ribbon cutting is gonna be, did you say it's gonna be Green Up the Mountain?
The bathroom ribbon cutting.
Oh, the bathroom, sorry, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
You jumped to a new topic and I missed it.
We'll do that at Bryson Park.
That's why I was gonna ask. I thought we were still on Bryson Park when you said it.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, another thing with, when we do have the opening of Bryson Park, there was sort of a plan in place for Charles Allen barbecue. And of course, sadly, Charles passed away. So the Allen family will certainly miss Charles, and he was a good man. Maybe someone else can fix the barbecue for the ribbon cutting for Bryson Park. I hope so. So that covers all that, and we're moving on to new business, correct? First thing in new business is a proclamation recognizing Miss Sally Mae Campbell Day, it's January 1st. We have a proclamation that Paige will read to everyone, and then I think we'll take a brief pause in the meeting and take a picture with the Campbell family with football.
Proclamation of the Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners honoring Sally Mae Campbell in recognition and appreciation of 107 years as a Sylva resident and declaring January 1st, 2025 as Sally Mae Campbell Day. Whereas the Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners would like to recognize Sally Mae Monteith Campbell as being a Town of Sylva resident for 107 years. It's remarkable that she spent her entire life within a few blocks of where she lives now. Whereas Sally Mae Monteith Campbell was born November the 11th, 1917, to the late Sam and Ida Fisher Monteith, she remembers when Main Street was a dirt road. Her father was a merchant selling general merchandise from a store located in front of the old A&P. And whereas she attended Sylva Collegiate Institute and Sylva Central High School prior to receiving her undergraduate and graduate degrees from what was then Western Carolina Teachers College. Ms. Campbell is the oldest living alumni of WCU. And whereas in 1938, she married Claude Campbell, who owned Campbell Electronics on Main Street, and raised their 2 children, Judy Campbell Coben and Jim Campbell in Sylva. And whereas Ms. Campbell taught school for 34 years at Sylva High School and then at Sylva Webster High. Whereas Sally Mae Campbell has been a member of First Baptist Church all her life. She taught Sunday school and often served as pianist or organist, receiving an award for being involved in the church's music program for 60 years. Whereas Ms. Campbell stayed active by playing music, walking 2 or 3 miles each day around town. She attributes her long life to exercise and good, clean living. Now therefore, be it hereby proclaimed that the Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners do hereby declare January the 1st, 2025 as Sally Mae Campbell Day in the Town of Sylva, and call upon our citizens to celebrate her accomplishments and contributions as a member of our community. Adopted this 12th day of December, 2024.
So at this time, I entertain a motion that we approve that proclamation.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. All opposed by like sign, and the motion carries. And at this time, we'll take a brief moment to have a picture with family.
Gotta close those blinds.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. All right, we're smoking down.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right, good deal.
Thank you, and Mom certainly appreciates the honor.
And she said this afternoon when they came by the house to see her and read the proclamation, she said, I can't believe they would honor me.
Sweet.
So thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Merry Christmas.
Meeting, this time I'd like to introduce Sylva Hagen with our audit report.
Hello, I am Sheila Hagan, and I have performed the audit for the town of Sylva for the year ended June 30, 2024. So I wanted to come today just to give a very brief summary. As you see, we have provided a copy of the audit report for you. I know you have not had time to look at it since we have just given it to you. So if you do have any questions when you look through it, if you want to reach out to Lynn, and if you have any questions, and if you have anything, you can pass that along to me if there's any questions for me. But I did want to give a summary. The most important thing, I want to flip over, if you'll look about the third page over at the index, I just want to point out a few things. I'm not going to have you sit here and flip through the report, but I do want to point out a few things, as I said. So if you'll see on pages 1 through 3, on about the third page, the table of contents, 1, 2, 3, that's the independent auditor's report. So that is where I give the opinion that the financial statements of the town of Sylva for the year ended June 30, 2024 are materially correct in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that is a good audit report, and that is good news. So the management discussion and analysis following that 4 through 12, I think that is a very good summary for people that are non-accountants that don't want to get all the way into the deep detail of the audit report. It gives a good summary of what all the report says. But I do want to say that You are in a very good financial position. I'm very impressed, especially with all the projects you have going on. One thing that I have to say that Town of Sylva has done that I really want to commend management, the board for their forward thinking is, your funding of the law enforcement separation allowance and the OPEB, the post-employment, benefits, health benefits. That is really huge on keeping your financials in a good position because as that liability is going up, you're offsetting that with the money you've already set aside to fund that future liability. So I commend the board and management for that. One thing, as I say, you are in good financial shape, but I want to point out, if you'll flip over on page 46, one thing, especially now with all the projects you have going on and the upcoming stabilization project, I want to point out you do have a healthy fund balance. You are in good financial shape. There were no problems there in internal controls or anything that I saw that I felt like I needed to bring to the board's attention. There certainly was nothing that requires reporting as far as, deficiencies or any, non-compliance, anything like that. But I always like to take a moment to point out, you do have a healthy fund balance. If you look on page 46, I think it summarizes it best there. Because in the general fund, you've got a $9,591,000 fund balance. But if you look through there, most of that is already either restricted or committed for projects that you already have in place. So when you go through that, and then you also look at your fund balance policy, you come down and then there's only remaining 948,000 available fund balance. So it does take a lot to run a town. So, your expenditures for a year run about 4.7 million. So, although you're in a healthy spot, I always like to point out it takes one big project and you can go sideways really quick. And luckily, the town of Sylva was spared recently. I mean, you really didn't have some of the effects. But whether it's because of a storm or some of these projects that you have ongoing, most of the time, even when you do get federal or state funding, a lot of those require it's a reimbursement process. So if you don't have the fund balance and the money to fund it up front while you wait for them to reimburse you, you can run into serious cash flow issues. So you're in a very good, very good position. But I always like to point that out. Especially recently, a lot of the towns I do, I mean, their financials turned around in a hurry after the flooding and things like that. The other thing is I also issued 2 other reports, again, on the table of contents, towards the back. There's a report on page 75 through 76. We don't have to look at that, but that is where I report on compliance with certain laws, regulations, and grant agreements that are material to your financial statements. And I consider your internal controls. So I'm happy to say, as I said before, there were no deficiencies or anything that I have to report. And then I also issued a report on compliance with your major state programs. So for this year, we had to audit 2 state programs, the State Capital Improvement Fund and the contingency fund from the DOT on the Allen Street project. So I'm happy to say that everything was in compliance with that program as well. So everything looked really good. And I have to commend the staff. They have worked, they were amazing to work with. I went to the police department, public works, the fire department, especially working with Lynn and Amanda and Paige. They all worked very well. Lynn especially, I've been crazy, so I appreciate her patience with me. A new audit is never enjoyable, I will say. It's always a new experience. And then this year we, I was behind, was a little affected by the flooding. So it kind of put us in a deep time crunch, and Lynn did her best, so it was totally on me. I took a little bit more time, but we worked very hard on going over the audit report. And then we met with Amanda and Paige, and we all went over and did an exit conference and went over the financials in great detail. I do want to point out, there's some paper in the back of everybody's audit report. I just wanted to point this out really briefly. So this is what they call performance indicators, and this is from the LGC, the Local Government Commission. So when we submit the audit, this is something that they want us to share with the board. So I wanted to give you a copy of that so you can look over it. I think it's a very good idea because this is what the LGC tells you they look at when they look at your audit report. So I always feel like it's important for you to know what they're looking at and what indicators they think are important. So a couple of things, if you'll flip to the last 2 pages, because there are some blank pages as far as it'll say NA or not have some information, but that's because this report does address if you had a water fund or electric fund that the county of Sylva doesn't have, that I wanted to provide the whole report so you didn't think anything was missing. If you look on page 6 of this indicator, I want to say number 12, I want to point this out to the board because as I said, this was completely my fault. So one of the things they look at is if you file your audit report timely. We did try to make the November 30th deadline. I have to say, I actually made Lynn's job even harder by trying to meet that date. And then I realized I was pushing it. I didn't feel comfortable, had to slow down a little bit. Again, that was completely on me. The staff provided everything timely. It's just I got behind after the floods. We lost electricity and things like that. So I was very fortunate. So I'm not complaining. I'm not making excuses, but I am taking responsibility. It being late was my fault. I had reached out to the LGC immediately after the floods just to see in case, and they said, you know, they'd extend the due date. There would be no, repercussions to the town of Sylva. We, just get it to them when we could, but we still wanted to meet Lynn and I both agreed we like to meet deadlines. But when it came down to it, I underestimated the time I needed, and I did need a little bit more time. It was submitted yesterday. So again, so on here, it says no response required. Normally, they would require, if we do not meet that November 30th deadline, normally the LGC makes us send a response saying what happened, what was going on. This year, they said, anybody that was affected by the floods, as long as we let them know, they understood, and that was there was nothing against the town. So I just wanted to point that out because that's why they're saying no response. But in no way do we think that means it's okay that, it's late. I do hate that, but we felt like it was better to take the time and review and make sure, especially the first year. So the second item there, I just wanted to point out. So again, this comes from the LGC. So I can't change anything that's on this report. When we submit the audit, it gives this back. The second item, you'll see it's got a 5.36% listed there. And that is not the accurate number. And I couldn't change, I can't change it. But I did want to point out, one of the things they look at is your budgeted ad valorem tax collection rate. Well, I should say this is looking at your own collected rate. And it says you have 5.36, and that's not accurate because you're almost 98. You have a very good collection rate. So I just wanted to point out, and I've talked to the LGC about that, and they're like, well, we know, and we're working on it. But if you were above that rate, that would be another thing we would have to respond to them about. We did talk in planning for the future with 107, with everything going on, even though you've got a reevaluation coming up, that we're anticipating the value of property is going to go up, but until businesses can get back in place, kind of worried about how that's going to reflect on the collection rate going forward. But that might be something if that comes to fruition, hopefully not. But with the delays and everything going on, that might be something. And again, just because you have to talk to the LGC doesn't always mean it's bad. They just want to keep an eye on things. But there's a few things there that I just, like I said, I just want to point out. Again, there was nothing that you are required to respond to them on, which means there is nothing the town of Sylva that we reported that causes them concern that we need to follow up on. So that's good news as well. So, and that was kind of brief. Does anybody have any questions or is there anything?
Where did the 5.36 that you can't change come from?
I don't know. That's what it
Still out of the
doesn't.
sky, that's where it's
Well, they've got a problem in their formula and that's what they said.
they calculated it at 5.36.
Yeah,
but it's not.
so it's supposed, where it's supposed to do is it's supposed to take your collections against, your
Yeah.
total value. And it came out wrong and I'm not the only person. They've been, and they're like, well, we've got a problem with our formula. And the LGC's in the same boat I think everybody else is in. They've had a huge turnover. We had a lot of problems, overall. Lynn didn't, but, with the annual financial report, they sent it out like 3 times before they got it right this year. And then they're working on a few things here. But yeah, I couldn't find how they calculated the 5% because it's supposed to be. So your collection rate is on page, just to show you that it's not the accurate information. It's on page, let me put my pocket. 74. So on page 74, you'll see your overall collection rate is 97.99%. Well, that can't give you an collection rate of 5%. So I'm not sure what they've done, but I wanted to point that out because if you were looking over this, I didn't want you to think that there was a collection issue because it plainly says on page 74, and that's what we reported to them. So I'm not sure what happened there, but again, that's just a few things. I do think it's important for the board to kind of know what they're looking at.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.
Christmas evening. We don't need a motion and vote on approval. So moving on, so we have the fire department pumper truck purchase approval. I've got a specific motion here I need to read. We'll call for a motion to approve the purchase of a commercial pumper truck and appropriate $495,300 from the fire department's capital reserve fund to the fire department's general capital budget. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to tell us about all this?
Well, not really. I mean, that pretty well said it.
Okay.
That was a low bidder too, by the way.
Okay.
in That truck. And they met spec.
We have talked about that previously, so.
Yeah, they met spec.
If I'd like to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have any discussion?
Just one question. What's the ETA on the new truck once we get this through?
What they say in their bid is 200 days from the time they received the chassis. Talking to the representative of the company, they don't expect to receive the chassis to probably December of 25. Another year from now.
So we're looking at a time frame of 2026, probably
Yeah.
mid-year
It
2026.
would be 2026.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed by like sign, the motion carries. And the last thing on our agenda is to entertain a motion that we approve the schedule for the Economic Development Committee meetings bi-monthly at 1:00 p.m. City Hall boardroom. And meeting dates would be February the 13th, April 10th, June 12th, August 14th, October the 9th, and December the 11th. So we make that motion.
Did the people that are serving on it request that meeting time of 1 in the afternoon?
Yes.
Interesting. It runs some, seems like for some people, but that's what they want.
Who's gonna decide their agenda?
Byron. And they asked me to attend the first meeting and I did, and I think they'd like for me to be the ones I can be, and I will. They've got some, already coming up with some pretty good ideas. One thing is maybe taking some of these parcels of land and, shooting some drone shots to companies that might be interested.
The market, those
Yeah.
vacant lots, it's
Yeah.
an idea.
So they're already talking about some positive things. But the meeting dates were discussed at their board meeting. This is at their request, and we need to approve their schedule for the year. I'll entertain a motion that we do that.
I'll make the motion. Get dates.
We have a motion. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. All opposed by like sign, and the motion carried. And it's time for Brad Walgrove to make us a motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. We stand adjourned. Very, very good show.